So good evening. I hope everyone is having a great evening. Hope you're doing well. It is excited to be here. We are going to finish 2 Kings tonight. We are in the 25th chapter, which is the last chapter of 2 Kings. If you are out there, send me a note, either on the website. You can put something in the chat box. I'm monitoring that. The two Facebook feeds, if you're out there, type something in the comment box, and I'll get that there as well. Excited about our study. A couple of things I want to, first I want to let you know this at the very beginning, and I will, I think I can put a link in here for you. Sorry about changing my screenshot there. I was typing, and that always creates problem. So if you will hang on just a second. Oh, wait a minute. Let me cut that off. Sorry about that. Sorry about that feedback you got there. You copy this so I can put it in a chat box. If you are interested in a class on Old Testament chronology, I am going to, it's not going to be a really difficult class. It's going to be a pretty simple class. But we are going to go through the chronology of the Old Testament so you can see and learn how different things fit into where they should fit into. So I put a web address in the chat boxes on Facebook, also put one on the website. If you go to the live stream page on the website, you can find this. You'll have to register. I promise I won't fill your inbox up. I will send you some reminders about the class, but we're going to do it as a Zoom meeting. So to be able to do that, I need an email address to send you an invitation. So if you'd like to jump on there and fill out that form, we're going to do it at 1 o'clock on Tuesdays. I know that if you're working, that really doesn't work for you, but it will also be recorded. So if I have your email address, I can send you a link where you can see the recordings if you want to watch that. If you're able to join us, it's just going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be too brainy, because I can't do it because if it's too brainy. But we will enjoy some time together. You'll get some time with the Zoom meeting to chat back and forth with people to kind of build some relationship there. If you don't know how to use Zoom, don't worry about that. You send me an email, or if you know me, you can text if you have my phone number, but shoot me an email or get in touch with me, and I'll help you go through Zoom so that you know exactly what you're supposed to do and exactly how you need to use it. So jump over to that web page at some time on that live stream web page. Give me your email address. Sign up. Again, I promise I won't share your email address with anybody. You'll just get things that are from me, and I promise I won't fill your email box up. All right, so 2 Kings chapter 25, we are going to find out about the destruction of Jerusalem. Zedekiah is going to be the last king that is mentioned. There's going to be another man who's put in charge who is murdered shortly after that. So just grab your Bible, 2 Kings chapter 25. Now, again, one more commercial. Next week, we will start a class on incredible women of the Bible that will run, I can't remember if it runs 1 month or 2 months, but I'm really looking forward to sharing that class with you about incredible women of the Bible. So, man, tune in for that. Tune in for that as well. And Sunday mornings, if you want, just tune in and live stream with us if you can't make it to a church somewhere. So 2 Kings chapter 25, grab your Bible. We'll jump over into the text. So it's the 9th year of the reign of Zedekiah, and the Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and all his army come against Jerusalem. They build a siege work against it. They build a wall around it. And so it's besieged from the 9th year of Zedekiah until the 11th year of Zedekiah. And we'll go deeper into those dates in just a little bit so you can see how long that siege lasts. The city wall is going to be broken through. We find out in 2 Kings chapter 24 in verse 20, that for because of the anger of the Lord, this happened in Jerusalem and Judah, that he finally cast them out from his presence. Then Zedekiah the king rebelled against the king of Babylon. So that's kind of where we are in 2 Kings chapter 25. We could go back and look at that, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to pick up here at 2 Kings chapter 25. I will kind of give you an overview of Zedekiah. So the city walls broken through. The men of war fled by night by the gate between the two walls, which was in the king's garden. The Chaldeans they're encamped all around the city because of the siege work. The king goes out, and the army scattered, and the king brings him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, which is north of Jerusalem, north of Israel, and they killed Zedekiah. They killed the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with bronze fetters, and took him to Babylon. So it was the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Zebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. So he burns the house of the Lord, the king's house. He burns all of the houses of Jerusalem. He all that's in the houses of the great, he burns all of those with fire. The armies of the Chaldeans break down all of the walls, and he carries off. We find out the captive, the rest of the people who remained in the city, the defectors who have deserted, the captain of the guard, but they leave some poor people in the land as vine dressers and farmers, and the bronze pillars and the carts and the bronze sea that's in the house of the Lord. The Chaldeans break all of those into pieces, and they carry the bronze to Babylon. And so chapter 25 goes through all of the things that they have taken from Jerusalem, and they have taken back to Babylon with them. Over here in verse 19, he took out of the city an officer who had charge of the men of war, 5 men of the king's close associates who were found in the city, the chief recruiting officer of the army who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found in the city. And he takes all of those, and he takes those to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and the king of Babylon struck them, put them to death in Riblah in the land of Hamath. I could show you just very quickly, maybe on a map, about where that would have been. Riblah would have been, if you can see this cursor, it would have been up in this area just south of the city of Ramath, which you see right here. So just south of that in this area, I believe, is where Riblah is, if I remember that correctly. I'm going from memory, so that could be very wrong, but I think that is right. You know, the reign of Zedekiah is much like the reign of that we looked at last week with Jehoiakim and Jehoiakim, because in verse 22, he said he made Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, governor over the people who remained in the land of Judah. So we just kind of get this brief glimpse in the text of the reign of Zedekiah when we look in 2 Kings. So we're going to go outside 2 Kings just a little bit, go to the book of Jeremiah. Look at some things from another book that gives us some insight into this. If you're Bible Bowl, and I know some of you have been watching Bible Bowl, there are a couple of things to remember in there, and you just read through that and you'll be able to get that. But a couple of things that we want to look at as we go through, and just think about the reign of Zedekiah. So Zedekiah is also named, Zedekiah is also named Mattaniah, which you find that out in 2 Kings chapter 24. 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 17. The king of Babylon made Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. So Zedekiah, formerly named Mattaniah, he is 21 years old. He reigns for 11 years, from 597 to 586, 587. 586 is an important year to remember when you're studying through your Bible, because that is the year that Jerusalem fell to the king of Babylon, obviously. So you circle that date and remember that. You'll probably need that for reference in other times. So a couple of things that happens during the reign of Zedekiah, and we find these out in the book of Jeremiah. So at the beginning of his reign, and I'm sorry, I've got notes. Well, I had notes written and scattered around everywhere. So since I don't know what I did with my notes, maybe I can find them right here. And I think it's Jeremiah chapter 27. We will look over there again. I had Jeremiah chapter 27. There is this this object lesson that God gives Jeremiah to give to Zedekiah. So if you want to turn over there, Jeremiah chapter 27. Let me get that on the screen up here so we can see that. All right, so Jeremiah chapter 27. Move to the other side of the screen. So down here in we'll just start up here in verse 2. This is what the Lord said to me: make a yoke out of straps and crossbars and put it on your neck. Then send word to the kings of Edom, Moab, Ammon, Tyre, and Sidon, throughout the envoys who have come to Jerusalem to Zedekiah, the king of Judah, and give them a message for their masters and say, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Tell this to your masters. With my great power and outstretched arm, I made the earth and its people and the animals that are on it, and I give it to anyone I please. Hang on to that verse. We're coming back to that verse. And I will hand all your countries over to my servant Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. I will even make the wild animals subject to him, and all the nations will serve him and his son and his grandson until the time for his land comes. Then many nations and great kings will subjugate him. So during the reign of Zedekiah, Jeremiah does this object lesson that God gives to them about this strap and this yoke that is showing the whole world. The whole world is going to serve the king of Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar, and he even will. But hang on to that. We'll get to that in just a second, okay? Don't want to get too far ahead. So the other thing that happens in this is, so I'm just trying to get you kind of in the mind of Zedekiah. If you were king, these are the things that are happening. You have Jeremiah prophesying. He's telling you that you're going to serve the king of Babylon. In addition to that, you have these false prophets. And before we jump to that, if you look over here in verse 12, I'm sorry, kind of jumping around on you there, but it said, I gave the same message to Zedekiah, the king of Judah. I said, bow your neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, serve him and his people, and you will live. Why will you and your people die by the sword, famine, and plague with which the Lord has threatened any nation that will not serve the king of Babylon? Do not listen to the words of the prophets who say to you, you will not serve the king of Babylon, for they are prophesying lies to you. I have not sent them, declares the Lord. They are prophesying lies in my name. Therefore I will banish you, and you will perish, both you and the prophets who prophesy to you. So during this time that Zedekiah is being told by Jeremiah, he is going to go into captivity, and he's going to serve the king of Babylon. In Jeremiah chapter 28, we find one of those prophets is Hananiah. And Hananiah comes out, and for example, he gives this prophecy. Jump to the other side of the screen. He said, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 years, I will bring back to this place all the articles of the Lord's house that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, removed from here and took to Babylon. And he keeps prophesying that. And even Jeremiah listens to him. And, he doesn't dispute him until God comes in chapter 28, verse 12. He said, shortly after the prophet Hananiah had broken off the yoke of the neck of the prophet of Jeremiah, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah. Go tell Hananiah, this is what the Lord says. You have broken a wooden yoke, but in its place you will get a yoke of iron. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. I will put an iron yoke on the necks of all these nations to make them serve Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and they will serve him. I will even give him control over the wild animals. So you have a couple of false prophets who show up. Wrong button, sorry that. You have Hananiah, and you have a couple of others, and we won't get into the names of all of those. One you will find over in chapter 29 of Jeremiah is called Shemaiah. And Shemaiah comes and he's giving the same kind of message that you don't need to go and serve this king of Babylon. So you're Zedekiah. You have Jeremiah giving this yoke bar strap illustration. You have false prophets who are telling you that you will not need to serve the king of Babylon, that God's going to break the yoke on his back, which are false prophets. So you're having to discern between good prophets and false prophets. And so the names of some of those false prophets, Hananiah was one, Ahab was another, Shemaiah was another one of those false prophets. And again, you won't get this in 2 Kings. You'll find this over in the book of Jeremiah. And so you have those things going on. In the 4th year of Zedekiah's reign, he actually went to Babylon. We find that out, and again, I'm jumping to a lot of different Bible passages tonight, so you're going to have to give me just a little bit to go between those. But in Jeremiah chapter 51, you find out that Zedekiah actually went to Babylon on a trip. It says, this is the message Jeremiah gave to the staff officer Uriah, the son of Deriah, the son of Meshiah, when he went to Babylon with Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 4th year of his reign. And so he goes to Babylon in the 4th year of his reign. Let me get that. I'm having trouble with getting the right screen up for you. Sorry about that. All kind of technical issues there. So Zedekiah goes to Babylon in the 4th year of his reign. And just trying to let you know some things that are happening with Zedekiah during this time that we're reading about. And sorry, I had that verse right there. We could have looked at there. So, and then in the 9th year of his reign is the first time when Nebuchadnezzar comes to him because he's rebelled against the king. And so he attacks in the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign. Now, here's some other things we find out from Jeremiah that Zedekiah did. So I'm trying to just kind of cast a vision here of what kind of king Zedekiah was when it said that he did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So he puts Jeremiah in prison in Jeremiah chapter 32. You can see some more of that in Jeremiah chapter 37. Hang on just a second. Talking too much. Have to have a drink of water. Let me check while I did that. Make sure there's not any questions out here on the Facebook page. All right, we're all good. So then in chapter 38, some people come and say, you should hear what Jeremiah is prophesying. We need to do something about him. We're going to throw him in a cistern. And Zedekiah says, you can do whatever you want with him. So he has Jeremiah cast into a cistern in chapter 38. Then he gets him out of the cistern. Then in Jeremiah chapter 38, Zedekiah comes to Jeremiah in secret. And he says, okay, about this king of Babylon, tell me what the Lord is really going to do. And Jeremiah says, look, if I tell you, you're going to kill me. He says, no, I promise, won't kill you. You see that in the Bible several times. So Jeremiah again explains to him. He said, this is what's going to happen with the king of Babylon. You need to surrender to the king of Babylon because God has determined that you're going to serve him. And again, Zedekiah doesn't listen, even though God through Jeremiah has told him exactly what he's going to do. And it's interesting, in Jeremiah chapter 40, Jeremiah even has a choice of whether to go to Babylon or to stay in the land. And he chooses to stay in the land and not go to Babylon. So that's just kind of an interesting thing that happens in Jeremiah chapter 40. So if you put all of those together, what I really want you to see out of that, when it says Zedekiah was a bad king, he's not listening to Jeremiah, who is the prophet of God. He seems to be listening more to the false prophets. See, God keeps sending him a message and he keeps ignoring it. And even when he goes to Jeremiah in secret, he still will not listen and surrender to the king of Babylon. So the king of Babylon comes and he sets this siege work up against the city. It happens in the 9th year, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of Zedekiah's reign. And remember, he's going to reign 11 years. And if I just jump back to the text, I meant to put a verse in there that I did not put in there. So I found it right here. So if you come over to 2 Kings chapter 25, by the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine had become so severe in the city that there is no food for the people of the land. So in verse 2, it's besieged to the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And when you get to the 4th month, then it's so severe there's not anything for them to eat inside the city, inside the land. So the 11th year, the 4th month, and the 9th day, and then by the 11th year, the 5th month, and the 7th day, this when Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, the servant of the king of Babylon, comes to Jerusalem, and he burns everything. He burns the city, the temple, the houses. He takes the articles from the temple mentioned in 2 Kings chapter 25. He takes those all to Babylon, and he takes some more captives to Babylon, and so Jerusalem has fallen. But that's not really the end of 2 Kings chapter 25, is it? We've got some other things that are going on. So Jeremiah chapter 52, if you have a Bible, turn over there. If not, I will get you there really quickly. Jeremiah chapter 52, verses 28 through 30. And this is the list of the numbers of the people who went to captivity. It says, so the Judah went away into captivity away from her land, and this is the number of people Nebuchadnezzar carried into exile. In the 7th year, 3,023 Jews, and this is in Nebuchadnezzar's 7th year. In Nebuchadnezzar's 18th year, 832 people from Jerusalem. In this 23rd year, 754 Jews taken into exile by Nebuzaradan, which we just read, the commander of the imperial guard, and there were 4,600 people in all. So if you're looking at that and you think, so everybody went to Babylon, just kind of remember there's a list of numbers, 4,600, and people were taken, and the rest of the people were left. And so obviously in 2 Kings chapter 25, we got to figure out, okay, what happened to the rest of those people? So if you jump back over to 2 Kings chapter 25, and we go down to verse 22. Let me get that on the screen where we can see it well. All right. So then he made Gedaliah, the son of Achim, the son of Shaphan, governor over the people who remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had left. And so what's going to happen, and you read this, we don't have to read all of this, right? Gedaliah took an oath, and he says to them, do not be afraid of the servants of the Chaldeans. Dwell on the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you. Now remember, God has been prophesying that. Should do it this way, right? God has been prophesying that through Jeremiah. If you're going to serve the king of Babylon. So when Gedaliah becomes the ruler, he says, look, just don't be afraid. Dwell in the land. Serve the king of Babylon. Everything is going to be okay. But in the 7th month, Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama of the royal family, came with 10 men and struck and killed Gedaliah, the Jews, as well as the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah, and all the people, small and great, and the captains of the armies rose and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Now, I don't want you to miss this, but we have to jump out of 2 Kings to find it, okay? Jeremiah chapter 42 through 44, God is specifically telling them, do not go to Egypt, which is exactly the thing that they did, right? There's a lesson in this, in that how many times, and I just messed something just totally up in this Bible program, so hang on just a second. I just hit completely the wrong button, but I'm going to fix it for you. If you want to get a quick glimpse of my Bible program there, it was there, and you can see all of the different things that are that I have access to. If you do that chronology class with me, you'll see that there as well. So let me get this one back to 2 Kings 25. Get this one over to so Jeremiah chapter 42 through 44. And please go back tonight sometime when we're done with this and read this. God is telling them not to go to Egypt and not be afraid. 10 days later, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah. So he called together Johanan the son of Kareah, and the army officers who were with him, and all the people from the least to the greatest. And he said to them, "This is what the God of Israel, to whom you sent me to present your petition, says. If you stay in this land, I will build you up and not tear you down. I will plant you and not uproot you, for I am grieved over the disaster I inflicted on you. Do not be afraid of the king of Babylon, whom you now fear. Do not be afraid of him, declares the Lord, for I am with you and will save you and deliver you from his hands. I will show you compassion so that he will have compassion on you and restore you to your land. However, if you say, 'We will not stay in this land,' and so disobey the Lord your God, and if you say, 'No, we will go and live in Egypt, for we will not see war or hear the trumpet or be hungry for bread,' then hear the word of the Lord, O remnant of Judah. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. If you are determined to go to Egypt, and you do go and settle there, then the sword you fear will overtake you there, and the famine you dread will follow you into Egypt, and there you will die. Indeed, all who are determined to go to Egypt to settle there will die by the sword, famine, and plague. Not one of them will survive or escape the disaster I will bring on them." So Jeremiah 42, 43, and 44, God is telling them, do not go to Egypt. Trust me. Trust the king of Babylon. Serve him. I will bless you. Just don't. And they just do the exact opposite of what God says, don't they? And man, I don't want to sound too harsh on those who are experiencing this, because how many times does God give us clear instruction and we do the exact opposite and expect that things are going to turn out really well? And they don't. Just listen to the instruction of God when he gives it to you. So where we are over here in 2 Kings chapter 25. So all the people, small and great, and the captains of the armies rose and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. So, and then this last section we read last week, where they bring Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, in the 12th month, 27th day, Evil-Merodach, who is then king of Babylon after Nebuchadnezzar, and he restores him and sets him at the king's table. But before we jump out of 2 Kings, hey, we're doing great with time. There's just a couple of lessons I want to make sure that we cover. Now, on the live stream, you're several minutes behind me, okay? It's just the way live streaming works. But if you have questions, drop those into the chat box now, and I should be able to see those before we get off of the lesson. Lesson number 1. God's control. God is in control of what's happening in our world. Sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes we don't understand it. If you look at the history of the world, nations rise and nations fall. I mean, there was Egypt and Assyria and Babylon and the Persians and Greece and Rome, and I'm not a history major, so I can't go. The British Empire after that, and USA, China, Russia, Germany, Great Britain. I mean, you look at all of the nations of the world, and nations throughout the course of time, they've risen and they've fallen. There have been great leaders. I mean, there Nebuchadnezzar, David, Solomon, Ashurbanipal. There was Winston Churchill or FDR, or just start naming great leaders or leaders who achieved great power. Not whether they were good or bad. It's not what I'm talking about. But they achieved great power as you look at world history. Genghis Khan and I mean, just you can go on and on if you're a history major, which I'm not. But the point is, God is in control of the rise and the fall of the nations, even when we don't understand it or it doesn't even make sense to us. I'm 56. I think I got that right this time. So 56. So what that means is, as far as history, I've experienced a very small slice of the pie. I mean, if you think of history as being a big pie, right? I'm just a little ice cream cake. Let's do it that way. I am just a little bitty slice of that pie. And so when I am trying to figure out where I fit in history, sometimes I can forget all of the context. And the context of history is extremely important. But God is in control. Jeremiah 27:5, I believe, is true whether it's Zedekiah and Nebuchadnezzar, or if it's me and whatever's happening in the 21st century. With my great power and outstretched arm, I made the earth and its people and the animals that are on it, and I give it to anyone I please. And that is still true. I don't know how nations will rise and fall. I don't know. I mean, the United States of America is a great nation. It's a great nation. I would not want to be in any other nation in the world. I love our country. But here's the reality is, our country may not always stand. There may be another nation who rises up that becomes greater than our nation. If that happens, God is still in control. God does not lose control. And I could understand, those people that we read about tonight that, the king of Babylon has come, they destroyed Jerusalem, they burned it, they burned their homes, and they want to go somewhere else and they flee to Egypt, but they didn't listen to God's instructions. So, my first lesson, no matter what is happening in the world, if you are a believer in God, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, if you believe in the sovereignty of God, God is in control of this world, even if I can't explain it, even when I don't understand it. I love, and this would be a different study sometime, but when you go to the book of Daniel and God says, look, there's going to be this kingdom, and then, the Babylonians and the Medes and the Persians and Greece and Rome, and he lays out for Daniel the kingdoms that are coming along in the history of the world. The fact that those kings rose up was not by accident. When you look in the Old Testament, he says, Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar is my servant. I raised him up for a purpose. Cyrus is my servant. I raised him up for a purpose. Just remember that the God who made the heavens and the earth and its people and all the animals that are on it, he is still firmly in control of this world. And I hope you find peace and confidence and security in that, because I do. I know that one day, even the world as we understand it will cease to exist. I mean, it will be gone. But God will still be in control. His kingdom will still stand. That's the first lesson, God's control. The second lesson is God's discipline. What happened to Israel in Judah to 2 Kings chapter 25, what happened to Israel earlier in 2 Kings when we looked at that, that was a result of God's discipline. The people had turned their back on God. They were serving other gods. They weren't dedicated to Him. If you read some of the prophets, socially they were unjust. They were oppressing the poor. They were oppressing the widows. They were oppressing the orphans. They weren't paying workmen their wages. The rich were getting richer. The poor were getting poorer. There was no social justice in their world. And I know that's a big thing in our world right now. It's a conversation about social justice. And I know from reading the Old Testament that whatever form social injustice takes, God is against that, okay? So we can be clear on that. I don't want to get into all of that discussion, but in all of that, there needed to be this discipline by God to bring them back to Him. And even as He goes through that discipline, I love this verse in 2 Kings 37. Even if you were to defeat the entire Babylon, I think I typed that wrong. I think this is Jeremiah 37. I think that is a typo because there is no chapter 37 in 2 Kings. So I think, please forgive my erroneous typing. If you are listening in or watching this later, that is 2 Kings. That is not... that's Jeremiah. That is not 2 Kings. So Jeremiah 37 verse 10, typo, big, some kind of big flashing sign up there. But even if you were to defeat the entire Babylonian army that is attacking you, and only wounded men were left in their tents, they would come out and burn this city down. I mean, that is just God saying, look, I have a purpose and I have a plan, and that's going to happen. And when you go through discipline, it's never, I don't think it's ever a pleasant thing at the beginning. It's a painful thing. That's why it's called discipline, right? So God, He needs to discipline them to bring them back. And sometimes in our lives, I mean, honestly, we rebel. God told them exactly what to do. They didn't do it. God said, if you do this, this will happen. And they did it anyway. God said, if you do this, I will bless you. And they rebelled and did the opposite of what God told them to do. And if we're honest and we look at our lives, there are some times, more times than we want to admit, we do exactly the same thing. And when we do that, when our hearts get away from God, God has two choices. He can give up on us, or He can discipline us and bring our hearts back to Him. So the discipline of God, even in this case, when God is telling them all of the time, my discipline is actually for your good. Now, as a parent, I've been both a parent and a child, right? And I know you would always hear that, well, this hurts me more than it hurts you. And I was like, how is that supposed to happen, right? And then you get to be a parent and you kind of understand that. This is my point, okay? If you're a child, discipline is tough. I mean, you do not want to experience discipline. You don't start out saying, I'd really like to be disciplined today. I think I'll go do something wrong. That's usually not the way that it works. If you're a parent giving discipline, that's never usually a pleasant thing. I mean, that's a difficult thing. You try to be careful with it. You try to do it correctly. And honestly, I probably didn't every time, if the boys are listening to that. But sometimes discipline is important for us to refocus and find out, recenter our lives. And God needs to do that so He can call us back. So in this particular case, when we get to Zedekiah, God was going to discipline Judah for their disobedience. And if you just stop there, you miss the majority of the picture, right? Because at the same time that God is disciplining Judah, God is laying out the fact that He is going to come to their rescue. So at the same time the discipline is going on, He says, look, but I am going to reach out to you and I'm going to bless you and I'm going to bring you back to this land. So if you turn over to Jeremiah chapter 29, and we'll do that really quickly because I don't want you to miss this point. All right? 'Cause I think this is a really important point that everybody needs to get. So Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 10, if you've got a Bible, you can jump over there. This is what the Lord says. When 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my gracious promise to bring you back to this place. For I know the plans I have for you. We quote this. You see this quoted all the time. This is the context, okay? For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity. I will gather you from the nations and places where I have banished you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back to the place from which I carried you into exile. Do not miss those verses. Even in the discipline, God says, I am coming to your rescue. And that is why, and I love this verse, by the way. I mean, you see it quoted in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places. But this, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. Those words are spoken in the middle of trouble, struggle, tribulation, and discipline. So if you're going through a time of discipline, it's God disciplining you. If things aren't always going the way that you want, if you look like you just have these insurmountable odds that you're trying to overcome, remember, God has plans for you, and His plan is not to harm you. His plan is to prosper you. Anytime God sends you through a period of discipline, His plan is to prosper you, plans to give you a hope in a future, but He has to bring your heart back so that you seek Him and search for Him with all of your heart. So just please don't miss those 3 lessons. God is in control. Sometimes God's discipline is necessary. And even in Hebrews, he says, if you know how to discipline your sons, don't you think that God knows how to discipline his sons and daughters? So we approach that discipline, learning how to turn our hearts back to God. And even in the middle of discipline, God is always promising rescue. And so that's some great lessons from 2 Kings chapter 25. So that wraps up 2 Kings chapter 25. My handy dandy notebook there. Next week, we will start a class on incredible women of the Bible. I'm really looking forward to that study. There's a couple of studies coming along after this that I am really excited about. If you got any kind of questions, throw them in the Facebook chat really quickly while I am doing this. And kind of wrapping up. Now, if you're on Facebook or if you're on the website, there is, or if you go to Clarksville Highway, if you go to gospelchariot.church and then you go to the live stream page, and I think maybe I can show you what that looks like just really quickly. I think I can do this. Give me a little latitude here. All right, so let me get rid of that. That did not seem to work. Well, all right, so maybe I will get this done here. You're looking at the live stream. It's like 2 live streams going on. I'm going to try not to mess your head up, okay? So if you go to gospelchariot.church/livestream, and then you scroll down to the bottom, there is a ad down there for an Old Testament chronology class. If you want to sign up at that link, you can do that. And we're going to do that class on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. I know some of you probably can't make that class. That's okay. They're going to be recorded. So it'll be a Zoom meeting. You'll see all the interaction between people. It's not a really deep class, but when you come out of that class, you're going to have a good understanding of some basic Old Testament chronology, creation of the world, time of Abraham, time of Moses, time of the Exodus, time of David, Solomon, some of those guys. You'll get this overview of the Old Testament chronology. Then we're going to go back after we've kind of laid out the chronology of the Old Testament, and we're going to start putting people and books and prophets, and we're going to lay all of those inside that chronology so that when you open your Bible like to Jeremiah and you start to read, you can say, okay, I know what was happening within the chronology of the Old Testament when we do that. I don't know how long that class will last. Some of it will depend on how many questions you ask as we go through the class, but if you will go gospelchariot.church/livestream, you can sign up for that class. And again, if you can't make it in person, if you can't make the Zoom meeting, then it'll be recorded and I will email you a link to the replay. I need your email because I am going to do this as a Zoom class so that we can have a larger amount of class participation interaction. In fact, I'm not really sure, but I'm thinking when we do the class on incredible women of the Bible, we might actually switch over and do that as a Zoom class as well for those of you who want to join. If you want to join the Zoom class, you'll be able to do that. If you just want to watch the live stream like you do now, you'll just be able to come to this same place and you'll be able to see the Zoom meeting as a live stream. It's going to take a little technical things to figure out. I need a moderator of if you really understand Zoom, you're part of Clarksville Highway, or you know me, let me know. You can be my moderator of the Zoom meeting because I'm going to need somebody for that. But again, if you would like to be in this Old Testament chronology class, please jump over here, put your name, your email in so I can send you a Zoom link. And also so that if you can't be there in person, that I can send you a replay. We will not live stream that class. So if you want to participate in that class, you'll have to do it as a you'll have to do it as a participant like that. So you'll have to give me a Zoom. You have to give me an email address and be in the Zoom meeting if you want to be a part of that. If you don't know how to do Zoom, that's okay. That's why I'm not starting to the 8th. If you need some training in how to make Zoom work, you email me, call me. I will set up a Zoom call, just me and you, one-on-one, call you on the phone, show you how to log in, get you all set up, show you where all the buttons are, so you are good to go for that class. But I'm really looking forward to that chronology class. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really interactive and not too serious. And not only will you learn some things going through that, but I can promise you that I will learn some things as we go through that chronology as well. Sunday morning, we will be here at 10 o'clock for worship. You can get us at ClarksvilleHighwayChurch.com, GospelChariotChurch.church, the website, Clarksville Highway Church Christ, the website, Gospel Chariot, YouTube channel, Gospel Chariot, if you want to find us on those. I mean, we have people who listen on all of those platforms. So we really enjoy you tuning in. I've talked to some people at church today. I know some of you are wanting to come back. You're not comfortable yet. Please, we miss you. We want you to come back as soon as you're comfortable. We would love to see your smiling face, but please let your conscience be your guide in that, and we will continue to live stream and to show and to experience that way as well. Okay, so this Sunday we are doing our Asking for a Friend series, and we are doing a class on how can you be confident of your salvation. So we'd love to have you join us for that as we do that. So how can you be confident of your salvation? Just kind of give you a quick preview. After that, the next sermon is Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People. The one after that is predestination, and does God have plan who goes to heaven and who doesn't, and how do we interpret that? How do we understand that? And after that will be a sermon on guardian angels. So that sermon series will run until I believe it will run until the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So just really looking forward to some of those sermons. Y'all asked some really great questions in that Asking for a Friend series, and really looking forward to sharing those with you and studying those. So jump on Sunday morning, 10 o'clock at one of those websites and listen to that and pay attention to that. And we'd love to have you worship with us either in person or online. And I don't really have any announcements. I don't really have anything else that I think I need to say. Oh, one other thing. We are going to start Bible classes and children's church back on September the 13th. So September the 13th, we will start Sunday morning Bible classes. We will also start our children's church back. If you're not comfortable coming at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, starting on the 13th, I plan, if I can get it all worked out, I don't think there'll be any problem to do this, I plan to live stream our Bible classes as well. So you have a live stream at 9, which is the Bible class, and then at 10 o'clock, which is the worship. I'm not sure. I have to think through that. I haven't all the logistics of that. I don't know if you will have have to have a break in there. I'm not sure what we'll do in that 15-minute period. You probably don't want to just watch people walking around the auditorium. We'll have to figure that out. May have to log back on and I'm not really sure. We'll figure that out and let you know, though. Hey, thanks for joining tonight. Glad we finished 2 Kings. Sign up for the Old Testament chronology class on the website, and also sign up. Don't sign up. If we decide to do the class as a Zoom meeting, I will send out the Wednesday night class as a Zoom meeting. The great women, incredible women of the Bible. If we decide to do that as a Zoom meeting, I will send some links out, so that you'll be able to give us a link if you want to be a part of the Zoom call. If you just want to watch it live stream, you won't need to do that. But if you want to be a part of that, I'll make sure that you have that information. And if you are not from Clarksville Highway, I don't generally have your email address. If we decide to do a Zoom class for the Wednesday night class, I will put a sign-up sheet on the GospelChariot.church website. So if you'll just go back to that live stream page and check it in 3 or 4 days, just see if there is a sign up for the Wednesday night class, if we decide to do that as a Zoom class. Hey, great to share tonight with you. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you, and even virtually, right? And hope to see you virtually next week. At least know you're out there. So have a great evening. I'm going to check one more time very quickly. I don't think we have any questions in the Facebook. Let's see, no questions there. Names of women so we can study. Man, there's a whole bunch of them. I'm not sure the order. I'm going to do all of those in. I tell you what, for next week, read Deborah in the book of Judges. We will start with Deborah. I know we're going to do, I have a list somewhere of the ones I'm going to do. Let me see if I have it in my handy dandy little book right here. Okay, so Deborah, then we will do Esther the next week. Phoebe and Junia on 9:23. Those are two ladies who are mentioned in 1 Corinthians. At the last chapter of 1 Corinthians 1 is called a servant in some translations. In some translations, she is called a deaconess, I believe. Junia is listed as being well known among the apostles. So there's a question, was she included in the apostles? What was an apostle? That'd be a really interesting study on Phoebe and Junia. And please tune into that. The week after that was going to be Huldah, who is a very... who is less known in the Bible, and I'll put some things here we can find that. Deborah's in Judges, Esther's a book, so you can find that. Phoebe and Junia are in 1 Corinthians. Huldah is in 2 Kings. I'm not sure exactly which chapter. Jeff covered that chapter just a couple of weeks ago. It's like 2 Kings 21, 22, somewhere in there. Then we're going to cover Priscilla, Lydia, and the mother of John Mark and their role in the New Testament church. And we're going to cover the mother and the grandmother of Timothy. And then a study on Miriam, who is called a prophetess. Both Miriam and Deborah, by the way, are called prophetesses. And so we're going to study those. I may add a couple of those, but right now that's kind of the schedule. Deborah, Esther, Phoebe and Junia, Huldah, Priscilla, Lydia, mother of John Mark, that's one lesson, those three. The mother and grandmother of Timothy, that's one lesson. And then Miriam. So that's kind of where we're going with that. So please, I really hope that you tune in. I'll ask some questions that I don't know the answer to, and I would just give you my opinion, and I'll give you a couple of other things to think about of people who have a different opinion than I do, but are very well respected, very well thought, and may be right. And I may be wrong, or maybe more right than me. I don't know, but I don't mind sharing people who have different opinions than I do. So that's kind of where we're going with the incredible women of the Bible. And I'll also try to put, as we go through that next study with the women, I'll probably put a handout up on the website so you can go there and grab that as well. So hope that answered your question. I've still got 6 minutes, but I am going to sign off, and I hope you have a great evening. Hope you have a great rest of the week, and look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning, either in person. If you're not there in person, and again, please let your conscience be your guide. Please join us on the live stream. I know the virus seems to be maybe slowing down. I mean, that's just my impression. No scientific data there, okay? Just what I'm kind of seeing. But still, if you need, I mean, if something happens, you get sick, you need somebody to run an errand, you need somebody to do something, please reach out to our church. If you're in our community, we will respond to that. If you are not in our community and you need something, we will reach out and try to find somebody who can take care of your needs. So please do that if you need something. Seems like maybe the one more. I was trying to see if I had one more comment down there. Nope, no comment there. No comment there. No comment there. Good evening. Have a good rest of the evening.